guys? I'm PhD here. You know, there used to be entire YouTube channels dedicated, big ones, to just reviewing cases. You know, laptop cases, iPhone cases. I never really got super into that because I was like, oh, you know, how interesting could a case really be? I'm not a big case guy. But this has got to be the most interesting case we've seen in a long time. This is the new Apple Magic Keyboard case for the new iPad Pro. $300 for the small one and $350 for this bigger one. And there was a lot of hype for this case, right? It was announced alongside this new iPad, which was barely actually different from the previous iPad Pro, but along with the new mouse and cursor support on the iPad, it restoked this whole fire of, can the iPad Pro be a full-time computer? So I've been using this new iPad and this Magic case as my primary computer for the past couple days and all weekend. And the conclusion I've gotten to is this is the best version of the iPad as a computer, for sure. But I would still rather have a laptop. Let me explain. So for your money, this is actually a pretty substantial, nice case. There's a lot going on here. It's a top part full of magnets that locks onto the iPad and does not let go. Like it's a strong magnet pattern matching up to the iPad. Then there's a hinge, which is like this long metal tube through the middle with a USB Type-C pass-through port on the side for charging. Then a base, which is this silicon rubberized material we've seen in Apple cases before, with a full-size backlit keyboard and trackpad. And it's a lot of material. It's a bit thicker and heavier also than you might be imagining. You ready for this? iPad Pro weighs, this big one, 640 grams. And then without the iPad, the case by itself weighs another 702 grams. So it weighs more than the iPad. So combined, they are thicker and heavier than a MacBook Air. And so while it's not nearly as elegant to open and close like a laptop would be, the one thing you can say about this case is it is well built. So to get this in place, basically you open this up and quickly you find that the hinge has this locking point where it gets to the locking point and it snaps into place. And that's nice. And then the top part continues opening like a hinge. So you've opened it like this, you take the iPad, you lock it with the magnets into the top half, everything lights up, the pins are all connected, and now it's floating above the keyboard as advertised. Now we've already seen iPad cases with keyboards before. There's plenty of people already using them, but there's a couple things that make this one so impressive. Number one is that hinge. It's pretty stiff like a laptop, and it is limited in how far back it goes, but I actually find it goes just far back enough for any of my normal use. It just kind of pops off the back and hovers the iPad there. Then the keyboard is really nice. I think it's the nicest part. It's scissor switches, so it has a nice travel, and it actually feels clicky like the new MacBook Air and 16-inch MacBook Pro's keys. And since the board is stiff and well built, there's actually no flex at all, unlike some laptops. And then it's backlit, which no doubt sucks a little bit of extra power from the iPad's battery, but I like the backlight. It's a nice touch. It fades on and off. And just generally, yeah, it's the best keyboard I've ever seen in an iPad case. That's facts. And then, of course, there's the trackpad too. It's not the biggest trackpad in the world, like you might find on a full-size laptop, but it is nice, and it definitely completes the laptop computer feel with the new iOS cursor. And it clicks. It really physically clicks. So everywhere from corner to corner, which is nice. So now you have the iPad hovering above the keyboard here with just enough room to type and not really ever touch the iPad. Usually, for me, that's good. And so now it feels like a computer. The USB Type-C charging pass-through is at the bottom, like where a normal computer port would be. And I seem to be getting almost 100% efficiency through those pins, which definitely impressed me. So it's like a real 13-inch laptop-ish computer with a 120 hertz screen and iPad OS and all of its quirks. But let me tell you, there are still a lot of quirks to this being your main computer. First of all, weight management is something we often think about with these iPad cases. In a laptop, you open this by the hinge, and all of the weight, all of the guts in the computer are at the bottom, and the top is just a lightweight screen. So opening and closing it, pretty elegant. Not a whole lot of problems there. But with the iPad in this case, or any case like this, the iPad is the computer, and so most of that weight is up top, and so it can feel a little bit top heavy. This is part of why they made this case so heavy, is to try to combat this a little bit. to try to make it feel a little bit less top heavy, but still, it's not perfect. This whole thing here, it's still lappable in some positions. That's a new word, right? Lappable. Most of the classic laptop positions are still fine. I know some people were wondering about this. It's better than you might expect, but from experience, it's still not as flexible as a truly bottom-weighted laptop where the hinge is just moving the screen weight. And then if you get down to the keyboard, great keyboard, like I said, physically speaking, but there's no escape key. So if I want to exit a full screen video or use anything you typically escape, you have to touch the screen. And you've probably noticed by now there's no function buttons at all on this keyboard, meaning there's no brightness, volume, or even keyboard backlight brightness shortcuts here. For all of that, you got to touch the screen. In fact, just to change the keyboard brightness, you have to go into the Settings app, into General, into Keyboard Settings, and then into Keyboard Hardware Settings. And then that's where you can manually turn up or down the keyboard backlight brightness. Luckily, auto brightness is typically still pretty good. It's using the iPad's sensors, by the way. So that's hopefully not something you have to do very often, but still, you get the point here. And then also, on a Mac, I'm a Command Q person, as a lot of Mac people are. Whenever I want to quit an app, Command Q to close it. It doesn't quite work the same way here. If you're in an app and you hit Command Q, nothing happens. You have to touch the screen, or Command H to go home. But if you actually do want to close an app in your multitasking without touching the screen, shout out to Peter McKinnon actually for teaching me this, you go to the Command Tab menu and then find the app you want to close in there, and then Command Q to close that. And then, you know, like normal with an iPad, there's a bunch of gestures from the trackpad and keyboard shortcuts to learn. In fact, if you hold down Command at any point in anything, it'll show you a list of all the keyboard shortcuts available to you at that time in that app. So that's a pretty cool pro tip. But that represents a little bit of a learning curve if you've come from something else with a keyboard. So at the end of the day, let me wrap it all up with this. My MacBook Air spec is $1,200. This iPad Pro, the 13-inch, the same size screen, is $1,000 plus the $350 case. That makes it $1,350. Now, if I could only have one, if I could only have a laptop with no iPad, or this iPad keyboard case, which is a bit more expensive, but no laptop, I really want to say I would rather have this. I'd rather have like the ability to pop off and have an iPad at any time. And then when I want to type, I got the keyboard and I can go back and forth, and it's much more fun. It's 120 Hertz. It's got way more apps. There's cameras if I need them. This is just more fun, but I still need that laptop sometimes. And for me, that's especially when multitasking. Like if I'm writing the review on the keyboard and I have Spotify playing in the background and I just want to skip to the next song, there's no button for it. I have to go over into Spotify and then swipe and then go back. Like, have you ever tried to be on a Zoom call and take notes at the same time in an iPad? Good luck. It doesn't work. But all that being said, in iPad land, there are two types of people in this world. Those who get a case or a folio or a keyboard for their iPad and they keep it in it all the time. They never take it out. That's just the way the iPad is now. Or those who get a keyboard or case and pop it out and use it mostly like an iPad all the time. And then sometimes they need to type, so they'll pop it in here, type away. It becomes a typing machine. Then when they're done, pop it back out, use it as an iPad again. For that second type of person, this setup, this accessory is the best possible version of the iPad. This is a go. This is awesome. Go for it. Spring the $300. But for me, I'm not getting rid of my laptop. But that's been it. Thanks for watching. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.